I am extremely excited about today's topic. We're talking about respect and integrity. I'm excited because this is a key struggle for so many of us, I believe, in society today. But of course, I am speaking directly to young men specifically. That is who my address is to, and I believe even amongst us young men, and here I am including myself, yes, again, amongst young men, even though I'm not one. But that aside, I'm going to still include myself amongst you guys without reproach or apology. So many of us struggle. I still remember what it was like when I was once a young man, and I struggled significantly with what respect looked like, especially how I experienced it and how I gave it, because there was a gross imbalance in the way that I showed respect and received respect. And I think that is still the case today. That is still very much the case for so many of us today. So that's why I'm excited about today's topic on respect. I think it's something that is really timely. I think it's something that's so necessary for many of us to give heed to and consider, especially in the way that we are experiencing respect in the exchange between us and others. I believe that we give so much respect. Listen carefully. I think we give so much respect, but we may not feel very respected, many of us. I think we give so much respect to those around us, and rarely do I feel that we feel respected ourselves. Furthermore, I think even as we give so much respect to those around us, we fail actually to even give ourselves any respect. Not only do we feel that we're not respected in the ways that we would like from others around us, but we also fail to give respect to ourselves. And herein is this great imbalance in the way that we're exchanging respect amongst ourselves. And my key question is, how do we experience respect, especially for us young men, as we commit to walking with integrity? I am so big on what this theme of integrity looks like in our lives presently today, in the moment, like right now. This is a moment by moment thing. Integrity is not something you get and you're like, all right, got that, I'm good, now I can keep on going without having any attentiveness to it. No, it's something that we continue to maintain throughout the course of our lives. What does it look like for us as young men to walk with integrity, to clothe ourselves, if I can use that figurative analogy, to clothe ourselves with integrity, especially in relation to the way we show respect? And my arguments, my observation, my appeal is that so many of us today show so much respect externally, but we not only fail to feel respected, but we also fail to respect ourselves. And this is the first and necessary starting place for us to show respect to ourselves first and foremost. I'm not saying don't show respect to others until you show respect to yourself. By all means, continue respecting others in the way you have been, but prioritize showing respect to yourself first. Prioritize showing respect to yourself even as you show respectfulness to others. This is a really necessary point, and hence why the subtitle for today's conversation is start by being selfish. Start by being selfish, especially in this arena here. Selfishness is one of those attributes that has been denigrated, and in my religious upbringing, I was taught this is a bad thing in all of its expressions. Do not be selfish. Be selfless. Give yourself generously without ever, looking for anything back. But I'm on a crusade now in this season of life to legitimize and normalize what selfishness could look like. I think there's a way that we can apply selfishness appropriately, whereby it can be a good thing for ourselves. And so hence, especially in this topic today in relation to respect, my appeal to you is start by being selfish. Start showing your own self-respect first. And we'll see why this is really critical, because even as you learn to respect yourself, you start teaching others how to respect you. You start showing that you're a priority. You start showing this is the standard by which I am to be engaged. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to play ball. We're not going to be able to have much exchange or interaction, which is going to be helpful as we progress forward together. So, big idea. Start by being selfish, especially with reference to showing yourself respect. You know, I'm not sure if you are familiar with this analogy. For those of you who have ever been on an airplane, you know they usually have that safety talk by the flight stewards before the plane takes off. And part of that safety speech also encompasses what to do if there's any, if there's any air pressure loss in the cabin. Then these cups will fall out of the little cubicle above your head, and they are your air supply on the airline. And so you put this cup over your mouth and your nose, and you strap it behind your head. And they make a very specific instruction there. They make a very specific instruction according to the following. They say, before you help someone else, including your own kids, put your own mask on first. Do not help someone else first and then apply yours. Put yours on first, because in so doing, you'll be of much more benefit to helping those around you. In the absence of doing so, you're going to actually put all of your lives in jeopardy. In the same way, before you be attentive in making sure you're respecting others, show yourself respect first for your own sake. Let's jump into a couple of definitions. But before I do, I came up with this quote. I'm thinking in these conversations, I want to look for some pertinent quotes that may be helpful in advancing the ideas I'm talking about. Today's quote comes from Lawrence Stern, and he says, respect for ourselves guides our morals. Respect for others guides our manners. And I thought that just plays so well into our conversation. Again, the quote by Lawrence Stern says, respect for ourselves guides our morals. Respect for others guides our manners. And I thought, what a great way to put this. A couple of working definitions. Respect is the attitude or admiration or esteem towards another person or thing. There are ways that we can respect things, whether it's water, or respecting the tools that we use, respecting stuff that we have saved up for, like my equipment, like this microphone that I've invested in, and my soundboard, and the computer, of course, that I am working off of. Like, there's ways that we can respect stuff, but today our conversation is how do we respect ourselves and our fellow human beings. That's where I'm going to be focusing on. So admiration or esteem towards another person. Respect is something that we can't demand or command. It really must be earned, especially through consistency of our actions in the realms of honesty and transparency, etc. Integrity, we've been talking so much about, and I keep on getting excited when I talk about integrity, because this is, I think, the need of our time in this world today. There's such a vacuum. There's such a negligence in the way that we attend to this topic, and attending to it, I believe, would change pretty much the world. It would change the way in which we as human beings engage, and I am starting to roll towards making that change happen by enlisting people, listeners like you, who can come alongside and join me as we commit ourselves to walking with integrity and changing the fabric in which we humans interrelate with each other. With the absence of integrity, I think we spiral downwards. We regress as human beings. As we apply and commit ourselves to walking with integrity, we start to grow together as humans, and some beautiful things happen. And that's what I'm all about. But let's define integrity. Integrity is a consistent alignment of one's moral framework with their actions by being true to themselves. And then the key topic that we're talking about today, and respecting those around them. And that's where we're going to end up on today. But let's jump into our conversation a little bit further here. Respect and integrity are so closely linked. It's impossible for one to exist without the other. I'm going to try and imagine what happens when you have one without the other, and we'll see that they really sort of don't stand up unless they're seen linked together. They are so interdependent. Respect and integrity, listen carefully. Respect and integrity, young man, are so interdependent, and applying oneself to both of them is really critical for both to be in full force and strength in your life. Without integrity, let's imagine what happens if you remove integrity. Without integrity, here's what respect would look like. Respect would become a facade. It would become a facade or a tool that you would use in manipulating others. There'd be no moral compass because you've taken that away when you've taken away respect. There's no moral compass, and so now you are basically using others without any honor towards their person and without any commitment to honesty or transparency in your interactions with them. Remove integrity and you don't have respect anymore. You see, integrity is that very moral framework that guides, as we were seeing from our quote, the integrity component, it guides the way that we relate to and the way we interact with others, especially from a vantage point that also addresses their well-being as well. Remove integrity and now respect is not in place at all. In fact, it becomes a tool that you could use presenting what seems to be respectfulness, but honestly, it's just a tool of manipulation where you don't care what happens to the other person, even as you use them for your own ends. And so that's what happens when you remove integrity. Respect just becomes a facade and a manipulation tool. Now let's consider if we kept integrity in place, but we removed respect. If we remove respect and we just try to go on the plane of integrity, here's what happens. Integrity becomes meaningless. Remove respect and integrity becomes meaningless, because respect, I like this phrase and I came up with this one here. Respect is the currency of how we connect with others. Respect is that currency that enables us to connect with others. Integrity is really about being true to self and respecting others. And so that's why I have respect baked right into my personal definition of integrity. Integrity for me, again, is the desire to align one's moral framework with their external actions by being true to themselves and respectful of others. I have respect baked right into there because it is so critical and so necessary. Integrity is about being true to oneself, but also respecting others in the ways that we engage with them. Integrity loses its context and purpose because we live in community, and I've argued countless of times before, integrity is meaningless if you're the only person in the world. Integrity only finds meaning and context when we see ourselves in the community that we are in. Who are we rubbing shoulders with? Who are we interacting with on a daily basis? That's where integrity comes to play. Integrity, you need no integrity if you're the only person in the world. And as we know, you're not the only person in the world. We are one of, what, 7-8 billion people on this planet now? We need to put integrity on display because we are in community, and in the same way, because respect is the currency of connection with others, you can't exist in community without considering what respect in relation to others around you looks like. And so you can't take away respect and try to have integrity just by itself. The two are so interwoven. They're different, but they're so interwoven with each other, and you just can't unravel them and still keep one intact. They both rely and depend significantly on each other. So young men, let's get to the point. Respecting yourself is paramount to developing respect and integrity with others. Let me say that again. Young men, respecting yourself, learning to respect yourself is paramount to developing respect and integrity with others. How I wish, young men, that I had had access to this insight when I was young once upon a time. I would have saved myself a world of pain and lost years. Had I been able to understand this, had someone been able to sit down with me the way I'm sitting with you to help you understand this connection here. It includes your holistic existence. Like, what is there to you? There's your physical self. There's, like, you know, your body, the physical part. There's your mental side, like the part you think with. And then, of course, there's the emotional side, the part you feel with. There's a spiritual side for those of you that are into religion, for example, or expressiveness, spirituality. There's that spiritual component as well. So there's these 3, potentially 4 parts that make up you. How do you learn to respect all of that wholly? For some of you, you are really amazing at respecting your body, and you hit the gym every day and you have your body fine-tuned. It's really well sculpted and you're aware of how your health is. And so you respect that really well, even while you neglect respecting your mind, the way you think and the way you think about yourself, the way you feel. the way you're able to learn how to express your emotions. You neglect those components. For others of you, it might be that you neglect your body like I did I neglected my body for many years. I pushed myself hard. I was so productivity oriented. I was able to nail so many physical accomplishments while abusing my body, even though I fed my mind and I respected my mind and I respected my emotional stature. Like those two are on point for me. And I mean, I was athletic, but I abused my body. I didn't give it enough rest. I didn't give it the exercise that it needed, like on an ongoing basis, to the tune that this last year, I hurt my back significantly on 2 different occasions. And so now I'm like, okay, I need to realign and give some respect to my body. So what does it look like for us young men to respect or learn to respect ourselves holistically, altogether, both our physical, not both, just all the components, our physical, our mental, our emotional, our spiritual components. How do we learn to respect all of ourselves? This is where we need to be attending to that balance of self-care practices. What does it look like for you to practice eating healthy, exercising, being mindful, like attending to those things? You see, when you do these things, you're able to start practicing further how to set some healthy boundaries. You can practice doing this very, very, very difficult thing that so many of us culturally do. And I'm not sure if you're the same like I once was, young man, and that is we get to practice what it looks like for us to say a 2-letter word that is so difficult. No. So many of us struggle saying no. So we get to practice using our no's appropriately, and we further learn how to be forthright in our communication with others. When we respect ourselves, we make responsible decisions that align with our beliefs, which is really the definition of integrity. When we're able to stay true to ourselves according to our moral framework and our actions that ensue, that's practicing integrity, and that's how we learn to respect ourselves first and foremost. Prioritizing growth is part of the outcomes of what happens when we learn to respect ourselves. We prioritize our growth. We look for opportunities to advance. We develop personally in becoming better versions of ourselves. These are some beautiful things that happen when we learn to respect ourselves first and foremost. When we don't respect ourselves, young men, here's what happens. We start engaging in some self-sabotaging behaviors and some destructive patterns in our lives. For some of us, that might look like substance abuse. We start drinking. We start using drugs. We start abusing these drugs as we look for some form of relief. We stay in toxic relationships because we've lost reference of who we are and what we stand for. And we start putting up with crap in our lives from others. So we stay far too long in toxic relationships, and we neglect the physical and emotional upkeep of our stature. This is what happens when we don't respect ourselves. We struggle further. I'm not sure if you can relate on these next ones here, but this is still so close to my remembrance of what this looked like in my life. But we have a very low self-esteem of ourselves. We struggle with low self-esteem. We struggle with confidence. We don't have confidence. I so remember what it was like when I didn't have confidence. Our reputation is impacted significantly in a detrimental way. And therefore, young man, start being selfish. Start showing yourself respect first and foremost. For so many of you, you might not even know where to start. It means that you're committing yourself to this pathway of walking with integrity. As you pursue integrity and walking with integrity in your life, respect starts to get infused again in the way you treat yourself. These two are so interconnected. Can I tell you? They're so interlinked. And where does this begin? For starters, I would encourage you maybe to carve time first for yourself. First of all, carve time that isn't unhurried. Carve time out that is specifically yours, where you can just focus on you. There's no distractions. Put your phone away. Just sit by yourself in your room, for example, in quiet, where there's no distractions, where you aren't going to be, pulled away. Make time for you. And when you do so, either sit or whatever is comfortable. Maybe close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, start considering, what does it feel like to be me? In this moment, What does it feel like to be me? What am I sensing or observing that's going on inside here? There's some discomfort. Okay, I can acknowledge discomfort. That's a really great place, is acknowledging what you're seeing and feeling. There's discomfort there maybe. There is uncertainty. There's fear. There's this sense of not feeling like I know what I'm doing. For some of you, you might find this better if you have a mirror in front of you where you can just sit and look at yourself in the mirror and just start taking some observations. And basically what you're practicing here is mindfulness and honesty with yourself. This is a great starting place of how you learn to respect self. This is just a starting place. This is by no means at the finish line where you hope to be. This is just a starting place for you to start saying, how can I be okay with what is here and for me to accept it? I am a person who's doing a lot of shady things right now. Okay, at least I can acknowledge and be honest with that. That's a beginning of respecting yourself, of acknowledging what is there instead of saying, that's not there. And you just continue to avoid and abandon and neglect yourself. Just start with that, maybe for starters. And if you have some more questions or insights about how to continue to go from there, drop me a line in the comments below, because I would love to be able to make some content that enables you to progress. That's why I'm doing these videos and these conversations. It's because I desire for you to progress and grow stronger in your ability. But young men, start by being selfish. Show respect to yourself first. This is a really critical place, really critical, because this is paramount for you to develop an amazing connection with others that's based on respect and integrity, is by you first of all respecting yourself. When you respect yourself first, you are far better equipped to respect others appropriately. See, when you put other people first, you start doing some awful things that I was definitely doing for so many years. See if you can relate. When you put other people's first by way of respect and you neglect yourself in this department, you start people pleasing. And I didn't realize it, but for many years I was codependent. I was an amazing people pleaser. I knew how to knock it out of the park this way. And as you look for ways of pleasing others while neglecting yourself, you start sacrificing your well-being. Do this over a span of months and then years, and then pretty much there's nothing left over for you. There's nothing for yourself that you're leaving to help you get to the next stage of how you grow and change. It's pretty serious stuff, man. This leads to resentment and frustration and burnout. And like I said earlier, it leads to a really low view of your self-worth. You have a low self-esteem. You lack confidence. You don't know who you are. And you just get used to that. And life goes on. And then at some point you look back with a lot of sadness, wishing it could have been different, because you actually do matter. When you respect others as you respect yourself, however, you start creating a far more positive environment in which you are also a key player. When you start respecting others because first and foremost you're feeding a really good dose of respect for yourself, you start creating an amazing space that is so positive. Can I tell you something, young man, as you're listening to me? The reason that compels me and gives me so much energy to make this content and to give my time for this is because it seems criminal for me that the amount of happiness and positivity that is in here, the way I'm able to respect myself and keep a really amazing environment between my ears here in my mind and in my heart, it is so good. And I want you to experience that as well too. I am able to give some amazing respect for others because first and foremost, I know how to respect myself. And I've had to do some hard work in learning what that looks like for me. We start to treat others as fellow equals with dignity and kindness when we start learning to see ourselves as equally worthy of respect as well. Regardless of a person's status or position, regardless of the kind of job they have, regardless of whatever, at the very core, we extend respect because of our common nature and frame as fellow human beings. When we respect ourselves, it means that we are valuing our own values and beliefs first and foremost, which is the very heart of integrity, is realigning with your moral framework. When we respect ourselves, we're now able to interact with others from a place that first prioritizes self and our commitments to our moral framework. So as we interact with others, we can remain uncompromising on our moral framework or our values or our beliefs, even while we interact with others. And when we respect others, we are giving them the gift of listening, of being present, of acknowledging their perspectives, and knowing that we don't have to shift or change ourselves if it doesn't align with our moral framework. There's some magnificent things that come out from us applying respect to ourselves first. I started off by saying that so many of us respect others in generous fashion and we neglect ourselves. And what I'm calling for here, young men, is for you to do an about turn. For you to do an about turn, especially if this is you that I'm speaking to and you can relate, because you know you give so much respect away, but you don't know how to respect yourself first. I've talked a lot about the necessity for you to respect yourself and to start off by being selfish. It is really critical because as you consider walking with integrity, it really entails that you get used to with what you're working with in the first place. That you not only get used to being aware of what you're working with, but you learn to respect and accept it. I'm not saying stay where you're at. I'm just saying as a starting baseline, acknowledge where you're at and learn to start respecting yourself. They're saying, hey, I can look at myself honestly and here's where I'm at. And I can respect that this is my starting baseline and this moment right now as I consider going forward. And that is something so worthwhile. I'm going to bring this conversation to a close. There's so much that we've talked about, but listen, I don't want you to struggle anymore. I urge you to consider your freedom, your liberation, by beginning with being selfish, by beginning in this moment with prioritizing yourself and respecting yourself. So what does it look like? If it's been a while, carve some time out. Go, sit by yourself and be okay with where you're at. If you'd like some help, drop me a line again down below. I'd love to be able to know specifically how to create content that can serve you. I'll make a short, I'll make whatever, even a full-length conversation like this, if it can help you a little bit further. But I would love for you to start experiencing respect, not because you're waiting for others to show it to you first, but because you're giving it to yourself first. Because as you give it to yourself, you'll start seeing that others start showing you respect because they match the way that you respect yourself. Really critical starting point. And of course, as I always finish saying, if you haven't already done so, please continue to follow along in these conversations and join me in this journey of pursuing integrity. I am so keen on seeing an army of young men who are driven by walking with integrity and transforming the world as a result, transforming the very relationships that you're in, transforming the jobs in which you apply yourself to, transforming your own selves and becoming this kind of a man that society does not expect to see. That's what I'm aiming for, and I believe it's possible. But it starts off with you joining a community like this one here and saying, yeah, I want to be around this kind of energy. I want to be around this kind of people who are rowing in this direction here. We weren't made to do this life on our own. We're social beings, and it's really important for us to learn who our people are. And if what I'm suggesting and talking about resonates with you, I would love for you to join along because I want to walk alongside you. It's a courageous thing. It's going to take a lot out of you. It's going to help you become more of a man by way of stepping into being a better version of you. That's what I'm offering. That's what I'm offering, not because I'm going to do the work for you, but I would like to walk alongside you and encourage you in your own pursuit while I do the same. We're fellow laborers along the way. So subscribe, like the video, and by all means, please do leave a comment. I so appreciate you guys taking the time to watch. I will see you on the next video. But for now, go live today with integrity and prioritize yourself. Be selfish. Respect yourself. Chat soon.